Welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Jersey Village City Council for Monday, September 20th, 2021. The time is currently 7 o'clock p.m. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum of council present?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have our invocation and pledge of allegiance by Michael Stembridge.
Please bow your heads. Lord, we come to you today, and we thank you for today and all your many blessings. We ask that you provide counsel, your guidance, and that they make sound decisions for the city. Help them to discuss respectfully, being quick to listen and slow to speak. We ask that you watch over our city and our nation in these uncertain times. Bless our first responder, peace officers, firefighters, city staff, EMS, and public works staff for their service and commitment to our town and her people. We appreciate all they do to keep us safe. Lord, thank you for blessing Jersey Village and Texas by mercifully protecting us all from the recent Gulf hurricanes, Ida and Nicholas. We ask that, Lord, please bless us and protect us from any future natural disasters in Jersey Village and Texas, whether they be hurricanes, floods, freezes, or whatever they might be. Please protect the whole nation and the world from natural disasters. Please protect Jersey Village and Texas from the pandemic. Lord, please guide us as Jersey villagers, Texans, Americans, and humans to heal our shared Mother Earth so that we may all work as a team to preserve and repair her. Help us to do this so that there is still an ecosphere left in the future, not only for we human species, but for our sibling species on Earth as well. Lord, please bring us great prosperity in Jersey Village and the nation, but guide us to temper that with a longer haul, more logical, more sane mission objective, so that there still might be a planet to do business on at all. Thank you, God, for all you've done, as well as all you'll do and shall so do to protect, guide, and help us as your humans, both in Jersey Village as well as throughout the world. Finally, Lord, bless us to have peace amongst nations. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you, Michael. Next up, we have a couple of presentations. We have Employee of the Month, followed by our presentation for National Night Out.
Mayor and councilors, thank you. Tonight I'm excited to give the Employee of the Month award for the September 2021 to Stacy Jones. Stacy Jones has been with the city as a telecommunications officer since February of 2017. In the past year, dispatch has gone through a lot of changes, making their training program incomplete and full of outdated materials. Stacy was tasked with taking that on after she was asked if she would be willing to do so. She spent countless hours in the last few months doing research on how to structure new training programs. During this time, she has worked tirelessly between the programs to update everything as it changes continually. After every training program, she goes back and asks people how it went and how she could find ways for that to improve. This enables her and the trainer to decide when to move forward and when to assign remedial tasks as well, when getting that constant feedback. She's devised a new system that any trainer will be able to pick up the material and train the trainee no matter where they are at in the program. She's gone above and beyond by getting with other departments to get their input into the training program to make it more well-rounded and complete as well. She's worked with Fire Chief Mark Bitts, for him to do a presentation for trainees during the fire portion. She's worked with Captain Herod to give an in-depth tour of the apparatus, their tools, and everything that they utilize in the fire department. She's worked with Lieutenant Hawley to come up with a guide for new dispatchers to learn how the police department wants their trainees to be learned for how they want the trainees to question callers for police responses. Stacy's also created all new training forms to go with each phase, which really encompasses what is being taught during that phase. She's really done an exceptional job with the undertaking, and not only is this new program thorough, but it's also uniform so that every trainee will get the same great training as anybody else. She's gone above and beyond in the last few months in this, and we are very thankful for Stacy and all that she's done for the city of Jersey Village. Congratulations.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the presentation of a proclamation for National Night Out. Chief Riggs is here to join me for this. I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. It states, Proclamation, National Night Out 2021. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch and Target is sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on October 5th, 2021, entitled National Night Out. And whereas the 38th Annual National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the City of Jersey Village to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas Jersey Village Police Department plays a vital role in assisting the Harris County Sheriff's Department through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in Jersey Village and is supporting National Night Out 2021 locally. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of Jersey Village be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in Jersey Village. And whereas police community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are important themes of the National Night Out program, now therefore I, Mayor Bobby Warren, do hereby call upon all citizens of Jersey Village to join the Jersey Village Police Department and the National Association of Town Watch in supporting the 38th Annual National Night Out on October 5th, 2021. Further, let it be resolved that I, Mayor Bobby Warren, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, October 5th, 2021 as National Night Out in Jersey Village. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we do one more with a handshake there. All right, thanks, Chief. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to citizens' comments. Citizens who have signed a card and wish to speak to the City Council will be heard at this time in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act unless the subject matter of the comment is on the agenda. The city staff and city council members are prevented from discussing the subject and may respond only with statements of factual information or existing policy. Citizens are limited to 5 minutes for their comments to the City Council. The first card I have is from Marilee Beasley.
For those in the room who don't know who I am a certified nurse, I'm a certified school teacher, a registered nurse, and I have an MBA. I did training at Harris Health for several years, which has been top LBJ. I also worked for the Harris County Health Department, and I knew from the very beginning there was something very weird about this, quote, pandemic. Now, I don't understand why they didn't install UV lights at the entrances to buildings, because we had a weekly TB clinic. That would have solved a lot of problems. Anyway, I haven't conceded the election, Mr. Mayor, and I have found out about a month ago there's something called the Arizona Protocol. So I have sent this to a lot of agencies around the state. I also sent a copy of this to Mr. Pruitt. I've provided a copy for Ms. Lori Cootie. I became very suspicious when on May 3rd, Lori Cootie, the city secretary, sent a certified letter to the state of Texas Open Divisions Records, and it appeared to me that she didn't want to let me see the ballots. And I thought that was very strange because I was running for mayor. Now, I did go to meet with the head of the state of Texas Election Division on May 13th. And I spoke to her, and she did advise me that I need to file a lawsuit to see the ballots and a lawsuit to contest the election. Now, then about a month ago, I found out about something called the Arizona Protocol. Now, I'm not going to belabor all of tonight, and I forgot to mention this. I don't know why in the world, when our city is broke, that we are giving out 2,000 free rounds of golf. That doesn't make sense to me. And of course, the golf course loses money every year. All right, so back to the Arizona Protocol. What it turns out is it gives you this thing that you fill out, and probably Bobby Warren is familiar with this process. So anyway, what I did is I followed the process, and then I had some questions. I said, I said, the Jersey Village City Secretary sent a certified letter to the State of Texas Attorney General to prevent me from reviewing the ballots. The ballots are usually tabulated by 8:30 or 9 p.m. Why wasn't a Scantron machine used? Why did it take until almost 3 a.m. to finish tabulating the ballots? Why did the Jersey Village City Secretary tell me that the pencils were indelible? I also heard that you said that too, Mr. Mayor. The pencils are softer than a number 2 pencil. It is possible to erase a number 2 pencil. There was a male poll watcher. Is it possible there were women who went into the bathroom and erased some answers in the middle of the night? Well, I don't know. And the other thing, the residents of Jersey Village signed a petition to stop the moving of the City Hall to the other side of Highway 290. 900 people signed. There were about 845 valid signatures. It seems that Bobby Warren, who is an attorney and has been on the Jersey Village City Council for several years, decided the petition is not valid. Now the Jersey Village City Council members are disregarding the will of the people. From what I understand, they are making plans to build a city hall on the other side of Highway 290. It was supposed to cost $8 million. Now I understand the cost is $10 million. The land on the other side of Highway 290 is prone to flooding and is probably contaminated. The land sits near a railroad track. I read the contract. It appears to me that the developer will get almost $2 million if we do not build this property. That is a lot of money for something that many of the residents do not want. And I said in there, my last statement was, please help investigate this election. I've sent this to the FBI, the Department of Justice, the State of Texas Election Division, Department of Justice, well, there's a whole long list. I'm also sending copies of this. I sent a copy to the chair of the Harris County Republican Party. I thought she needed to know. And there's several other, I figure, and the Texas Rangers, both the Austin office and the Houston office. I figure somebody is going to have to go and investigate this election. There's been a lot of elections that have been rigged, and I'm not going to stand for it anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilee. The next card I have is for Andrew Mitchum.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Mitchum, 15810 Acapulco Drive. Bobby, love seeing you up there, buddy. Just want to say there's a couple things that happened this week from the perspective as a business owner in the city. First of all, my business, we hosted a vaccine clinic today for COVID-19. Texas Army National Guard showed up. We vaccinated about 35 people today. So if there's anyone in the city who needs a vaccine, please let me know. We'll get them back out as soon as possible. I have a lot of contacts in that, being a former medic. I saw something this week after the tropical storm. There was a business, not my business, but another one very close to us, who had some power issues, and they had to close down for a few days. Spoke to the business owner, and really the holdup was Centerpoint needing a permit from the city. And so unfortunately they were shut down they're still shut down, probably won't be open again tomorrow. But when you see efficiencies that can possibly happen, I just want to relay that to you and relay that to the people who are the decision makers in the city. There may be some opportunity to maybe have an expedited permit process on the weekends. Unfortunately, this situation happened on I think late Thursday or Friday. So this business had to shut down for the entire weekend, for a Friday and the weekend, and will be shut down. He was shut down today and will be shut down tomorrow. That's a lot of revenue. And just the fact that we're not able to, and I could be wrong, there may be a process that is available, but it would be great if there was the ability for a business, if they're impacted over the weekend, to even pay a fee to have someone in the city look at their permit application, have an inspector come out, because you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars of loss of revenue for something that just is about time. So if there's any way y'all could look at that to help, it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody else. And you know, our weekends are very, very popular. So being shut down for a weekend could kill a business. So this generates sales tax for the city, sales tax for the fire department, police department. This is something that could benefit the city in the future. Look into that process. Last thing I'm going to talk about, well, maybe last thing, depends on how much time I left. We unfortunately had a break-in at the brewery this weekend. It's just one of the things that happened, but got guy broke in, left with $150 from our cash register. I just want to commend the JVPD for showing up so quickly. And this happened about 6 a.m. when I got to the brewery. The break-in happened at 3:45 in the morning. Got to the brewery at 6. Noticed something obviously had happened. By about 1 p.m., 2 p.m., JVPD already had a suspect. That does not happen anywhere else. Anywhere. I'm sorry, but it doesn't happen anywhere else. I want to commend Sergeant Brandon, Officer Arsenault, for doing such a great job showing up quickly and using our security camera footage, and then combined with the flock cameras that this council approved a few years ago, was able to locate where this truck came from, develop a suspect very quickly, and I'm hopeful that something will happen in the future with this person. We hope. But, the way that it goes, I just want to say thank you very, very, very much. As a business owner in Jersey Village, this is definitely something we should be proud of going forward and attracting businesses to our city, is that when something happens like this, something unfortunate, JVPD can't be everywhere all the time. It's just not possible. Had they happened to drive by at that moment in time at 3:45 in the morning, they would have definitely got this guy, but they can't be everywhere all the time. So don't take it out on yourselves. Can't clone yourselves, but they did a fantastic job, and it really made me feel better as a business owner that they have our back. And so just a couple things I wanted to bring to you from that perspective. But everyone, you guys are all doing a fantastic job. Thanks so much for serving. I know I've been in that chair. It's great to see you in that chair, Bobby. And so keep up the very good work, guys. Cheers.
Thank you, Andrew. Next card I have is from Jim Fields.
Hello, my name is Jim Fields, and I live at 16413 St. Helier. I want to start off with the golf carts. I love it, having a blast. I can't tell you how much fun it's been for my family and kids, and thank you again. It's been wonderful. The main reason why I came here to speak was code enforcement. If we're needing monies, I think that is a tool, definitely in the toolbox. I know a couple months ago, there was some code enforcement, and I could tell the difference. It was wonderful. So I appreciate the code enforcement on that. It makes a big difference when we're competing against other neighborhoods like Fairfield. My daughter lives on Barker Cypress, where the HOA is very strict. And here to this day, we still have some improvement to be made. We have cars littered throughout the city. We still have curbs that have grass growing over them. Just to give you an example, for a car that's qualifies as a junk vehicle, about 150 yards away from here, we have flat tires. It's been there for months. And this is a win-win situation. Property values go up, city gets more money. Everybody's happy. All right, second thing is the speed limit signs. Can we please get those synchronized with the speed limits? I know on one of them, I want to say on Senate, it flashes at 30. It's supposed to be 35. And please, can we have it when it hits 35, not to flash your speeding, have it where it hit like 40, something above the speed limit. If you're coming down Village Green, it flashes at 30. Can we please fix that? Another thing is the bushes on Village Green. As you're coming out, everybody probably knows this. You're coming out there, you have, Heaven's Cake and Harbor Freight. I think there's an ordinance. You must have be able to have a certain amount of view from the street, from the corner. And these bushes go almost, I think well, you just can't see past them. Everybody's sticking their nose out. And on that same place, there's a spotlight. I think a truck has hit it many, many months ago. If you come in there at nighttime, it's pointing right towards Village Green as you're coming into it. If we can get that corrected, it'd be wonderful. On the last one here, and is tax increase. And I apologize, I thought it had already been approved, but I just want to say that I went over the budget, and it was amazing to me. This is just salaries. That, of course, the police was number one, fire department's number two. And then I think the golf course, and then we have Parks, Rec, and Community Service, and Customer Service. The golf course was $1.7 million. That includes the clubhouse and the maintenance. Parks, Rec, and Customer Service was $700,000. And I guess my beef about it is we're raising taxes, but yet I don't get 20% of my homestead exemption and I believe there's something wrong there and that should be corrected. If we can be entertained, we definitely should receive our 20%. Moving on here. One last thing. The shot, the vaccine we're getting, COVID vaccine, is not a vaccine, it's a shot. As if you get the shot, you will get COVID. A vaccine is like polio, measles. You get a vaccine, you do not get the disease. One last note here. I want to thank, I was going to say, on the fire department, is there any way they do a great job. Is there any way we can get somebody shoulder the cost of the calls we make on 290? Because that's where a bulk of our calls are. And that's not fair how we give our excellent service, but it's a burden on the citizens of Jersey Village to pay for it. One last thing I want to say. The unsung heroes in its public works, thank you for we take it for granted. I don't. Every time I guess I've been overseas to some really crappy countries. Please don't take it for granted that you have sewer and water you can drink. I mean, look at Flint, Michigan. And I want to thank you very much for that, and thank you, Mayor and City Council, for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. The next card I have is from Zach Marr.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for what you guys do, and thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. My name is Zach Marr. I live at 16426 Jersey Drive. I was born and raised in Jersey Village and bought my current house here in 2005. Recently, my family and I looked at moving into a bigger house out of Jersey Village, but decided it was worth rebuilding our existing house to stay here because of the safety provided to us by the police department and fire department. A fire department I've been a volunteer member of since 1998. Along with that, I also have served 18 years with the Houston Fire Department as an engine captain, and I'm also serving with the Cy-Fair Fire Department for the past 19 years as the Deputy Chief Shift Commander over the A shift. I have the utmost respect for Chief Bitts and this fire department, and this is the first time I've ever felt the need to get up here and address you, as I can't sit by quietly anymore due to the critical staffing shortage we're facing today. Yes, we have a nice building, nice equipment, we have plenty of members on the roster, plenty of EMS and first responders, but the number of actual interior firefighters we have has drastically dropped. I've been able to see this firsthand as I was present for 4 of the most recent fires here in Jersey Village. I was a part of an interior firefighting crew at the house fire on Philippine. I was the incident commander for the house fire on Jersey Drive near the swimming pool. I assisted the incident commander for the fire at Adriatic Cafe and was the incident commander at a recent garage fire on Cornwall. At all 4 of those fires, the incident command post was run from my Cy-Fair Fire Department vehicle. Due to the limited number of Jersey Village volunteers, we didn't have enough people to pull the command vehicle. I was also present for the apartment fire last night where, again, we didn't have enough people to bring the command vehicle. As the incident commander, you have to make the overall call of what operations take place on scene. On the Jersey Drive house fire, I had to order the crews inside to back out and place their lines in a defensive manner to extinguish the fire. This wasn't because the fire was so intense we couldn't stay inside any longer. This was because the fire was getting bigger and I didn't have a trained crew outside I could depend on to go inside if something happened to those crews. The National Fire Protection Association has what they call the 2-in-2 out rule. This means for every 2 people in a hazardous area, you must have 2 people outside in full gear ready to go in if something happens. The only time this rule should only be ever overlooked is when crews go into the rescue mode knowing somebody's inside. Without mutual aid companies coming in, Jersey Village Fire Department on most nights cannot meet the 2-in-2 out standard. On a recent Cornwall fire, the chief in the backyard asked on multiple times. He needed more crews to come back there to ensure the fire wasn't spreading into the house. And I continuously had to tell him we didn't have anybody there. As soon as the Cy-Fair apparatus arrived on scene, I would send them to him. It took that Cy-Fair apparatus 12 minutes to arrive from the time that Jersey Village dispatched that house fire. The other fire I mentioned was the Adriatic Cafe fire. Everywhere on Facebook I read, everybody talked about how sad they were that they were going to lose the bread. What people didn't realize was during that fire, while they slept soundly in their beds, we had a ceiling collapse, splitting a crew in half, and an emergency mayday was called from crews trapped inside. As the incident commander, we had to make a decision to send additional crews in there to locate them and bring them out to safety. The rescue crew that went in that night was a crew from Cy-Fair, because other than the full-time fire department crew that showed up from Jersey Village, we didn't have enough trained firefighters to go in and get them. The full-time firefighters have a crew of 3, so that means you have 3 people on a fire apparatus, 1 person driving and operating the pump, and only 2 people to go inside. A few years back, Chief Bitts placed a paramedic on staff full-time. This was great and provided advanced care to all of our citizens should we need it. The problem now, that paramedic is one of the 3 of the crew, and he's the one leading the interior attacks. That night at Adriatic Cafe, the paramedic captain was inside and unable to perform life-saving measures how we needed them. On any structure fire dispatch here in the city, we automatically have to rely on at least 2 mutual aid engines, a mutual aid ladder, and a mutual aid ambulance staffed with paramedics. That means you call 911, the JV dispatcher takes the call, dispatches Jersey Village, then has to turn around and call mutual aid departments to send us more help. This works great if all those mutual aid companies are in service and at their stations and not on their own call. But what happens if Cy-Fair is on a structure fire of their own or the closest units are tied up? Our members of JVFD are having to operate without an effective backup crew until the neighboring departments arrive. As a part of that mutual aid agreement, JVFD sends out an engine if they're the closest ones. I can tell you as a chief from the Cy-Fair Fire Department, we don't even expect that engine to show up. If it shows up, it's an added bonus to us, but we can still operate without it. Back in the day when I joined, every single time we left, we pulled the engine with 6 people, leaving 3 to 4 people behind. Nowadays, after the 3 full-time firefighters, you may not get anybody else. The volunteer firefighter is a great thing, but with the current state, we don't have the time to recruit and train the members needed. The JVFD is in need of more trained, paid firefighters today. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
Zach, I got a question, Zach.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, I'm pretty limited by open meetings act because it's not on the agenda. But you used some terms in there. Can you explain to me what defensive mode is?
Defensive is when you pull everybody out and we're just spray the water from the outside. You're no longer able to get inside and truly get to the seat of the fire and protect the things inside.
So you talked about that being in an apartment building. How big is that apartment building?
The defensive one? That was a house.
It was a house, sorry.
That was the house on Jersey Drive near the swimming pool.
Okay. And so that fire, when you had to go defensive because you didn't have the manpower, how far had that fire progressed through the structure?
It was probably 30 to 40% of the structure.
30, 40%. So if you had the crews and were able to go to the offensive mode where you're able to enter the structure, could you have reduced the property damage?
That building would still be standing today.
It's sort of clear that's the house. That fire occurred during the open house.
Correct.
So it occurred during the open house, and it's the one that's currently now a slab on Jersey Drive down near the pool.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know how many firefighters the village has on staff every day?
I do not.
Okay. Thanks for coming up here. I had a couple other questions, but I don't remember all of them. So
You know how
thanks.
to get a hold of me.
Thank you. The next card I have is from Kimberly Anow.
My name is Kimberly Anow, and I live at 15601 Singapore Lane. My husband and I bought our house in September 2020, and after learning of the original residents, I've become very interested in the history of our village and have been researching with the help of someone who grew up here from 1956 to 1970. His personal experiences of the development of Jersey Village are invaluable, and I want to share so fellow villagers can appreciate our community's history. Clark Wilcox Henry ran the F&M Dairy Ranch from 1938 to 1948. After living in Colorado Springs for a few years, the family returned to the owned land with ideas of developing for others to reside. Clark met Leroy Kennedy at the Garden Oaks Baptist Church, and with Leroy's father's construction business, N.E. Kennedy and Son, they began planning the 1,236 acres into a model suburban city. As the homesteads were being developed, the city was to also include a grocery store, gas station, city hall, church, park, and a country club golf course, with homeowners having automatic membership. Leroy Kennedy lived in Garden Oaks, and his next-door neighbor was Thomas Patrick Buddy Wall for which Wall Street was named. In 1951, the Kennedy family moved to another house, and the new next-door owner was Bob Simmons, a pro golfer and course designer, which Buddy befriended as he was quite a fan of the sport himself. Buddy introduced Bob to Clark and Leroy, and they began planning the golf course, which had the first 9 holes completed and opened in early 1956, with the second 9 holes laid out to be finished. This being his first course design, Bob went on to have a distinguished career as an international designer. Those involved in the golf course development and usage were also Leon Burnham, Chris Robinson, Jim Bennett, Barney Clark, Jim Dickory, and Carlton Gibson. Many of those involved also moved to Jersey Village as homes were being built on Lakeview, Jersey, and Acapulco. Unfortunately, as this area of the Houston region was slower to grow, the success of many amenities could not be sustained, so Clark turned the golf course into public access. In the early 1960s, the grocery store, where the Joe Myers pre-owned parking lot is, became a skating rink for the Cy-Fair youth, along with the swimming pool in the area of the current golf course clubhouse. Buddy Wall was the golfing starter on weekends, spending most of his career in service of Jersey Village as Director of Public Works until he passed away in 1979. His son, Michael, enjoyed growing up here and being of assistance to Clark and Bessie with the swimming pool, skating rink, and along with Clark's son, Raymond, diving for golf balls in the lakes to have them resold at the clubhouse. Clark passed away in February 1972, and in 1974, the golf course was sold to Cameron Iron Works for their employees to enjoy, and it was also expanded to 36 holes. The city of Jersey Village took ownership of the course again in 2000. It has gone through many updates and improvements, such as the greens and the recent berm project. With mentions in golfing publications on its course attributes and difficulties, the Chronicle has called it the best-kept secret in Houston. Michael Wall wrote to me, "For us youngsters, it was a wonderful community in which to grow up. It had a small-town atmosphere and was imbued with great small-town values of community, close friends, and care for others. It is important to honor the unique history of Clark Henry's Jersey Cow Dairy Farm turned suburban housing oasis with golfing among mature oak trees. Time will continue on with more improvements to occur for the villagers of this quaint town on the edge of Houston." Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Next, I have a card from James McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. I want to go ahead and relay off Andrew and say we need to free Mr. Donut and get them open. My name is James McDonald, and I live at 16306 Acapulco. September brought another round of fun hurricane planning, prepping, and overall anxiety to Jersey Village. It is in these not-so-fun times that we witness one of the many ways Jersey Village is the best place to live. Neighbors helping neighbors, the city going above and beyond to plan, communicate, and help, and also those local businesses step up and help. This month, the JV Appreciation Committee would like to recognize Senate Avenue Brewery for their efforts not only with this latest storm, but also during the February freeze. Andrew, Councilwoman Mitchum, thank you, and then Scott too. Thank you for utilizing their resources, namely constant power supply to open their doors to any resident, the chance to escape the cold with no power, a beverage to help relax, or more importantly, free Wi-Fi to continue working or posting a rant on Nextdoor. During this last hurricane, Andrew started a volunteer database to connect those with the time, willingness, and/or tools to help those in need. Several people signed up on both to help and to receive this help. This is just one example of how JV is the greatest place to live. Congrats, Andrew. Congrats, Councilwoman Michelle and Scott on winning Citizen of the Month. And you have to share your coffee and donut, though. Sorry, we don't have to, meaning to share. This storm also brought out the goodness in the new generation of the city. The JV Appreciation Committee would like to recognize 5 awesome kids who took time out of their free day of school to help with their neighbors. I received more emails about these kids than I did regarding anyone else, which is great to see. First up, we have Joseph and Samuel Brennan. Wave, guys. Thank y'all for your help. They went around and helped clean up storm debris from several homes around JV. Their mother, Sage, was equally as awesome to respond to neighbors' requests and get their boys out and helping. Next is Jane Mitchum, who also used her day home from school to clean up neighbors' homes. Congrats, Jane. Lastly, I have the honor to recognize and embarrass my own 2 sons, Bryden and Owen McDonald. It fills me with immense pride that these 2 happily go around and help. As soon as Bryden hears the word hurricane on the news, he is out making sure the drains on Acapulco are clear and free of debris to ensure maximal drainage. They also went around and helped clean up yards for the elderly who could not easily do so. I'd also like to give a special mention to those who were also found to be helping, Ava Bartholomew and Liam Taylor, who are both from Acapulco. Greatest street ever. So thank you guys for that. Congrats, you 5 kids. You each get a free donut and coffee if you drink coffee at Mr. Donut. Thank you guys. You guys do an awesome job. Thank you for your services. Thank you to JV, PD, and FD. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James, and thank you to all the young folks who helped out. A heart for service starts very young, and I'm sure it's going to continue for many years to come. Thank you. And the last card I have is from Mark Malloy.
Hi, my name's Mark Malloy, and I live at 7803 Hamilton Circle, and I'm past city council member for the city of Jersey Village, Texas. And the first question I've got is, when I got to the meeting tonight, I went to the back and I picked up one of the agenda sheets, and basically what I'm finding is that the sheets that are placed back there are for the August 16th, 2021 meeting. Okay, so anyway, the other things I want to talk about is the agenda dealing with the improvements that will be done to the E127 channel, and the city council is going to consider approving getting the engineering work done for that project. And what I'm seeing here is the distance for this project is starting east of Jones, and it's going to run over to the metal pilings that are driven in the ground that is a drainage structure, and the total distance is 8,100 feet. Okay, the information that they have here with Jersey Village and Harris County Flood Control doing this project is that they are going to build a trail from Rio Grande over to Jones Road, and they're going to try to build walking trail underneath the bridges at 290. But my concern is this project is covering the distance from the east side of Rio Grande heading towards Senate, and then across Senate over to about halfway down Elwood before it gets to Lakeview on the east side of the city. And my question for the city is, in your plan to do this improvement to the E127, is there any part of this plan to try to build trails from the east side of Rio Grande heading east to Senate or further east to Lakeview or further east to Ecuador? And so I've talked about this many times in the past. The citizens of Jersey Village that chose to buy their homes, and those homes back up to these channels, which is the E127, which is Wall Street Channel, and the E135 that's north of the golf course, and the E100, which is the White Oak Bayou main channel. They own to the center of the channel. And those homeowners bought those homes not having any thought that the city had any plans to try to build a trail behind their homes. I've taken and I've got a petition signed by all of the homeowners that live on the north side of White Oak Bayou that is along Philippine. I've got all of their signatures from Ecuador to Lakeview saying they do not want a trail built on their property behind their homes or on the sides of their homes. So anyway, that's what I wanted to ask about is there any plan in your agenda item to do any trails where I just talked about?
No.
Okay. Then the last thing that I want to talk about is the Jersey Meadows Golf Course. You know, these people that we just had here talk about the history of the golf course is that the citizens have paid and subsidized that golf course. The golf course is a fenced-in area that is heavily maintained. I mean, they irrigate it, they fertilize it, they mow it, and it's fenced in. The citizens do
That's
not
time,
have
Mark.
access
Thank you.
to it.
Okay, that's all of the citizen comment cards that I have. So we are going to move along to agenda item E1, conduct a public hearing pursuant to section 34-253 of the code so that the owner or the owner's representatives for the property located at 15905 Juneau Lane, Jersey Village, Texas may appear and show cause. First, why such building or structure should not be declared to be substandard, and two, why the owner should not be ordered to repair, vacate, or demolish the building or structure. I now, Madam Secretary, can we confirm that all meeting posting requirements for this public hearing have been met?
Yes, they have been met.
Great, thank you. I will now call upon the city's building official to give the report detailing the structural deficiencies and recommending that the structure located at 15905 Juneau Lane be repaired or demolished.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Killebrew. I am a certified inspector that has worked for BBG Consulting. I've done many substandard and condemnation of buildings which were either repaired or demolished, and working with both cities and homeowners. This address at 15905 was called to me by a complaint that was received by the city, and the city asked me to go by and look at it. And I looked at it on 8/9 of this year. And when I went by, the first things that you could see was the high weeds and grass and tree limbs. There was also a large number of bees. Those three things right there have been remediated as of 2 weeks ago. What I can tell you is that the garage that is attached to the house is dilapidated to the point of structural integrity. There, as of right now, there's only one way of fixing that would be getting an engineer to fully certify how to fix it. It is dilapidated to that point. It's falling over on its own. I did not get into the house. We did receive a email from the owner's son, Michael. Did you want me to read that email fully, or do you want me to just kind of summarize it?
I think we'll read that when it comes to their portion of the of the
Okay,
term.
that's a good idea. We do understand that they understand that the garage needs to be removed and torn down. However, we have not gotten inside the house. I can tell you that it's been many years of anybody occupying it, and any structure that sits vacant for a long period of time causes dilapidation. So we don't know what's going on inside the house as of right now, but we know that the garage needs to be torn down.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You mentioned that the two buildings are attached?
I believe that they are detached. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, my bad.
You might have been focused on the garage, which is very extreme and
Yes, sir.
shows that it's ready to fall today. You said you couldn't get inside the main structure, because I do recall I drove past this location and there is some dipping in the roof on the main structure that indicates there are problems on the main structure.
I can guarantee there's probably some issues there. What I can't do is right now say that it's completely substandard. I need a little more evidence, but yes, there are definitely probably issues within that. I need to be able to get into the building to be able to see that.
Will this ordinance allow that? How can you get access to that?
We would need to either get the owner's permission or we would need to get an inspection warrant.
And Councilmember, I was about to say, we've actually got a point later on in the public hearing for council questions, but, no problem. Sorry, we've got a few more items to get through before we get to that point. Okay, I now call upon the lien holders, mortgagees, or owners of the property present to give them an opportunity to be heard and to address the nuisance issues as they relate to the minimum standards, including the scope of work and financial capability of repairing the structure located at 15905 Juneau Lane in Jersey Village, Texas.
Mayor, the owner representative is not here, but he did submit an email earlier today that I would like to read on his behalf. The email states, "To whom it may concern, I am reaching out on behalf of Sheila Prescott. My name is Michael Prescott, son and caregiver of Sheila Prescott. Sheila has declined in health rapidly over the past 4 years and requires around-the-clock care. I have recently started works with the contractor to address the issues at 15905 Juneau, but timing has not been kind to the situation. I am trying to address the garage first and get it removed and replaced so that we can then focus on the main living structure, but finances and roadblocks keep getting in our way. Sheila has several properties, of which one is pending to be sold. This sale is to help finance the start of the renovation of 15905 Juneau. Sheila has expressed her desire to move back into Juneau and was one of my dad's, Armin Prescott, last wishes before he passed away from his medical conditions. Since taking on the care of both parents over 5 years ago, trying to juggle my responsibilities as well as their care and upkeep of their needs, then dealing with COVID, I have been overwhelmed. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a contractor willing to get the job done, but we just need a little more time to get things in place and get started. The contractor is currently out of town attending another site at this time, and I am waiting on him to let me know when he gets back in town. Unfortunately, I'm unable to find a sitter for Sheila for me to attend the meeting at this time. Please advise what I need to do at this time. Respectfully submitted, Michael Prescott."
Okay. Thank you, Austin. I now call to order this public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of or against the recommended action shall give his or her name and address and will be given 5 minutes to present information during the meeting. The purpose of today's hearing is to provide for the owner or the owner's representatives of the property located at 15905 Juneau Lane in Jersey Village, Texas, to appear and show cause, first, why such building or structure should not be declared to be substandard, and second, why the owner should not be ordered to repair, vacate, or demolish the building or structure. The burden is on the owner, lien holder, or mortgagee to demonstrate the scope of the work required to comply with the ordinance and the time it will take to perform the work. I have not received any comment cards for this particular public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? There being no one desiring to speak, I now close this public hearing being held to provide for the owner or the owner's representatives of the property located at 15905 Juneau Lane in Jersey Village, Texas, to appear and show cause, first, why such building or structure should not be declared to be substandard, and second, why the owner should not be ordered to repair, vacate, or demolish the building or structure. And just as a precaution, I now call upon any lien holders, mortgagees, or owners of the property for any closing comments. There are none present. I now call upon any council members who may wish to ask any questions of any of the participants. Okay, we're now going to move on to the next agenda item E2. Consider ordinance number 2021-35, finding that the structures on or about the property located at 15905 Juneau Lane, Jersey Village, Texas 77040, otherwise known as the property, to be substandard and a public nuisance, ordering the owner of the property to abate the substandard structures and public nuisance on the property, authorizing the City of Jersey Village, Texas to demolish the structures on the property if the owner of the property fails to abate the substandard structures and public nuisance on the property, authorizing the City of Jersey Village, Texas to assess a lien against the property for the costs of the demolition, and making other findings and provisions related thereto. Austin Blease, City Manager.
Mayor and councilors, we have this ordinance in front of you, and we're happy to answer any questions, but I think you summarized it well.
Council, just so you know how the structure it goes, it's like a two-tier finding that the ordinance will lay out. First is that you're going to find that it's a substandard structure, and you can define what that is. Here, we have the house and the garage, and from the building officials' comments, at least the garage is by its face substandard structurally. So that's the first finding in the ordinance. Second then would be then what to do with it. And so you have to find that if you find that one or the other structure is substandard, then it's what to do. Generally, your code is in line with most all other codes relating to this. You find a reasonable time for the owner to repair or to demolish the structure. Reasonable time can be a lot of different things. A lot of times it means about 90 days, about 3 months. One thing that you have here, which is fairly unique, is you have contact with at least the owner's representative. And since he mentioned that he's working on getting that done, I don't think, even if you found substandard structure according to the building official's report and you ordered it to be demolished, I don't think you'd be violating anything that the owner has already set out, because he's doing the same thing that you're going to be doing. So then it would be that if you found it was substandard, the garage part, and you order it demolished within 90 days, then I think that even if that didn't occur in 90 days, but you still had a working relationship with the property owner or the owner's representative, you can always extend that time frame to meet whatever time frame that the property owner is working with. And the second part of that would be that we mentioned that we haven't had any access or authority to enter into the property. And the building official is correct that you do that either by invitation of the property owner or you do that by administrative warrant. In this case, it might be that you could get an invitation on the property since you have working, at least some kind of communication with the property owner's representative. And so if there's other issues to address in the house, which it seems to be the property owner's representative says they want to address those as well, then that might be something that as we move forward with the process that you can get in contact with the owner's representative to enter the property and see what else could be done. But for this particular ordinance, it seems that based on what's going to be suggested by the building official is that the garage is not repairable. And so therefore, your code allows you to do one thing, and that's to order it be demolished. But then you set the time frame for the owner to respond to that. And that's how the ordinance is structured. Right now we have, I don't know what exhibit it is, but one of the exhibits is blank, and it's going to be based on your finding and then your order tonight.
And my concern here is there's always a time delay on a lot of stuff. At what point can we put a fence or protective barrier around that property?
That's part of what you can do. If you can find that the dilapidated structure would be a nuisance and cause a health and safety concern, not only to the property owner, but to surrounding people, then that's something you can order as an emergency measure. Here, again, since you have contact with the property owner, that's something that you could just talk to the property owner and say you're going to do that. And again, costs associated with that can be placed as a lien on the property. And all those, you can build those into the ordinance as well. Like if you said that, you say you took the 90 days as a reasonable time frame, order it demolished in 90 days, or we're going to take, remedial measures on it and put a fence up and then demolish it. All that can be built in the order.
Austin, when was that email that you read? When was that received?
Earlier this morning.
Okay, so you probably haven't had a chance to have much conversation with the owner or the owner's son?
No, sir.
Okay.
But this house has been in that state of disrepair for a number of years, correct?
Yes, it's been vacant for well over a decade, if I recall correctly.
And if we did the passed on the demolition of the garage, would there also be something in there that said we would get access within the 90 days to look at the house?
I think it'd be best if the order is stuck to demolishing the house, because I think that could be interpreted as you like demanding approval or invitation. I think that the best way to do that would be for the house part. If you're not going to take any action on the house, that's just to work through Austin and your building official to get an invitation, authority, permission to enter the property, and do it that way. But for the garage, because even the property owner recognizes it needs to be demolished, that I think that in your order, setting that time frame for the demolition would move the process forward for everybody.
We could do.
Go ahead.
But we could order the demolishment of the garage tonight and another meeting, the house.
Right. Well, until you get invitation to enter the property, your building official is limited to only external view, so it's whatever they can see from the outside. And so, and like she mentioned, that, I mean, even if you could even see a sagging roof, but you can't make a clear determination of what that means for the structural integrity of the building. So that's why you'd want some invitation on the property. That'd be the easiest way to get in and just be able to see the structure itself, so they can make a proper determination of what's going on with the structure.
I'm just trying to get clear what the logistics of this process is.
So you're right. For right now, I mean, because the building officials found that the structure, the garage structure is not able to be remedied, so demolition would be the answer for that. The house is not in the same situation because they have not been able to see the structural integrity of the building. I would think that maybe through the connections with the property owner's representative, you get an invitation on the property, which would allow entrance to the house and all of that. If you don't get that, if it doesn't turn out that way and you don't get an invitation, then the other option would be an administrative warrant allowing the building official to enter the property for those kinds of inspections.
So having learned lessons, having gone through this process before, this ordinance does not differentiate between the garage and the house. It says buildings. And I would suggest that we move forward with finding, obviously, I think we're going to find it substandard. And then this ordinance, we have, if you change this from 30 days to 60 days, that gives us 2 meetings to make adjustment should they suddenly start taking care of this house, as they say they will. Unfortunately, I've heard that before. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's song and dance, and we need to move forward with taking care of the problems so that they do. As far as an emergency order to put up a fence, is that something we need to put into this ordinance or something that the city can take care of?
So you have 2 options when it comes to substandard structures. You have 2 options in your code. One is the emergency route, and the other is this route, the normal route. Emergency would be if you had I'm assuming like a fire would happen, and the building is obviously causing impact to neighboring properties, or presents itself to be so open and accessible that people could go on the property and it would be a potential for danger for them. Then that's where emergency order could happen. This you've adopted the other route, the normal route, and so we're following that process. And just for a note on the ordinance, the reason it was drafted more generally to allow for both the house and the garage is because at the time, like your building official mentioned, there was at least from the public right of way, she could see the bees that were in the house from a photo, and I think the weeds and limbs and other things were on the property as well, but those have been remediated. And again, I don't know if that's because of the notice that was delivered to the property owner or not. So now, based on the notice that was sent to the property owner, it was related to 2 things. The nuisance is on the property, which would be the bees and then the weeds and that kind of thing, and then the garage. So all that remains now is the garage, which we just found that out today, that there's only the garage left. And so, but in your order, in the ordinance that can be done, we can define what that is in the attachment and the exhibit. We'll define the property as the garage only and limit your action only to the garage on the property. And then again, just like we were saying, is that any future issues, that's always, any time, we can notify a property owner of any nuisance, any substandard structure, all that, and the process will proceed however it needs to go.
And for the benefit of everybody in the room, the administrative warrant we're talking about is nothing that we issue. That would be the building official would go to the municipal judge and go that process, right?
That's correct. There's an affidavit they file with the municipal judge, and they will allow that official to enter the property for the purpose of an inspection.
So it sounds like the logistics here are that if council wanted to go ahead and enact this ordinance tonight, focusing solely on the garage and making the action to be taken within 90 or after 90 days would be demolition of the garage. That still buys time for Austin to reach out to this gentleman who has contacted us for the first time today to try to work with them to ensure that they're able to make things happen on their own as much as possible. And if they fail to make some progress on it, of course, we can act. If they seem to be making some progress but need some additional time, council, of course, can then further extend the deadline in order to allow more time to get things done. Certainly, we would much prefer to allow the property owner to handle the situation themselves. We would only want to demolish it ourselves as a last resort. But since we've gone through all of the process of sending out notice and all of the statutory requirements for this particular process, I think it's best to finish that out to at least give us that option, knowing that we have some flexibility to move that around as needed.
And Mayor and Council, just the process, if that's how the ordinance will be found and passed, then it's going to be filed of record in the county record so that everyone's on notice, all property owners, all interested parties, and we will mail certified the same copy of the ordinance tonight to the record property owners and the representative, their son.
Now, I do know there is a property tax lawsuit that's ongoing. Do we, if, let's say, worst case scenario, if we do have to proceed ourselves with demolition of the garage or any other structure and we file a lien, is satisfaction of our lien after all the property tax issues are resolved?
We found out that this particular property is in a early stages of a tax hearing with Harris County. So we'll be involved in that. And so, I mean, technically, the quicker we get it done, the better. As far as we could tell, there's not been any action taken by Harris County. It's just been notices sent out. So it's a good time for that reason, it's a good time to get it now, at least on the record.
Okay, so it's basically whoever exercises their lien first. Okay. If there are, you have another question or any other questions? If not, we would entertain a motion at this time.
I move that we approve ordinance 2021-35 with the amendment of section 2, striking 30 days and replacing that with 60 days.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
One just clarification. We're wanting to fill out, you can make those amendments, but I think you should add on to your motion because we're wanting to fill out Exhibit B to the ordinance, which is the actual order. So you can amend that to 60 days, but then also that Exhibit B reflect what it sounds like, the demolition of the property within, now you would say 60 days. And the property meaning the garage only.
Yeah, that exhibit is blank, left for us to fill in.
Now I understand the full thing. Okay, so move that we approve amendment or ordinance 2021-35, amending section 20 from 30 days to 60 days, and for Exhibit B to read the demolition and removal of the garage structure on the property.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a revised motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The ordinance passes. That brings us to the city manager's report. Austin Blease.
Mayor and Councilors, we have the report in front of you tonight, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the city manager? If there are none, that brings us to item G, consent agenda. Are there any council members who wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for consideration in the regular agenda? The one question I did have, there was on item 8, I'm not saying I want to necessarily pull it yet, but I just wanted to clarify. On item 8, it says nominating a candidate to serve on the Harris County Appraisal District's Board of Directors. If I remember correctly, was that filled in with an actual candidate? Oh, is it Mike Sullivan? Okay, I guess there was another, maybe I'm getting it confused with somewhere else in the agenda where there was a blank. Okay, good. I just wanted to be sure. I kind of caught that late.
Since we can ask questions without pulling one of them out.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
Why, what actually does the health officer for the city do?
That is a great question.
It's in section 34 of our municipal code.
Oh, I can, if you may, I can give you an example. Is recently we had to set some procedures for the mowing lien process, and that health officer had to sign off on those procedures. So there's certain things within the code that require their guidance, and that's what that health officer is for.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think state law requires cities to appoint a public health officer, and there's certain statutory requirements for them to advise and to sign off on things that touch on health-related issues. Although I do have one quick question. This is separate from our physician for EMS, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I couldn't remember that, but yeah. Okay. If there's no council member that wishes to pull an item from the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda? All those against? Any abstentions? The consent agenda passes. Which brings us to H, the regular agenda. Item 1, consider resolution number 2021-62, appointing members to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, the Board of Adjustment, the Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, and the Golf Course Advisory Committee. Lori Cootie, City Secretary.
Yes, so Mayor, if everyone can look at Exhibit A. We can work through that exhibit to accomplish what we need to get done. The first, this is our annual appointment of members to the boards and commissions whose members' terms are going to be ending on September 30, 2021. For the Planning and Zoning Commission, we have 4 members that are up for reappointment, positions 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of the incumbent members, 2 of the incumbent members, Commissioner Stanley and Commissioner McCray, they desire reappointment. Commissioner Barbary Freeman and Joseph Paul do not want to be reappointed. You have 3 applicants in the meeting packet: Charles Butler, Eric Heno, and Cody Matthews, who have also asked for consideration for appointment. This item would be to appoint for terms, positions 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, at this time, entertain any discussion on this. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask a generic question about the applications, Lori. I know that you do a great job of record keeping and keeping these. Has anyone been in touch with these applicants who may not have received an application within whatever time period to see if they're still interested?
Okay, so all of the applications that are in the meeting packet are current. So they're not older ones, and if there is an older one, I did call them, but I don't recall that there were any that are from days gone by.
She's done a fantastic job every year. She calls to make sure if there's an applicant in front of you, they want the position.
Yep.
Some of them show up to the meeting, it gets extra points. With that said, for this particular board, I'm going to present a slate of Courtney Stanley, Jennifer McCrae, Eric Canal, and Charles Butler.
And we've got a couple of different, boards or committees that we have to get through with one resolution. And so it may just, I think it is good to go one by one and just kind of see where we get some consensus. And where we have consensus, we'll just keep moving through. And then once we get through all of them, then we consider the resolution as stated during that discussion. So we have a proposed slate for the Planning and Zoning Commission, I believe. By the way, I believe it's A now. Am I getting that right? There we go. That's a tough one.
I would agree with that slate.
Any other thoughts? I mean, I think all of the applicants are outstanding, so you couldn't go wrong in any direction.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that we have more applicants than positions open. That's a testament to the amount of volunteerism we're building, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, the rest of the sheet doesn't have the same, so.
I will say, first, I do want to thank everyone who submitted an application. There were quite a few great applications, and if you're here or if you're watching it online, you don't get chosen. There are always opportunities that come up, not just this time of year, but throughout the year. And we definitely encourage people who are interested in serving to continue to be involved and to, next time Lori contacts you and says, hey, there's an opening, would you still be interested? We hope you'll continue to say yes. Any other discussion on planning and zoning? It sounds like we've got a consensus there, so I guess we can move on to the next one. I think we're looking also at the Board of Adjustment.
On the Board of Adjustment, we're looking for positions 1, 2, 3, and A1.
And remind me, Lori, because I know I always get this confused with Board of Adjustment and Appeals versus Board of Adjustment. Board of Adjustment, I believe, is a zoning. They mostly deal with appeals from zoning decisions. Is that correct?
Board of Adjustment is for concerning zoning type issues or even signage. And then the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals, strictly deals with the codes like the building code, the swimming pool code, the electric code, those type things, and they review them periodically, and if there needs to be changes, they make recommendations to council. This one is the Board of Adjustment, and it concerns the zoning. And again, we're looking at positions 1, 2, 3, and A1, and we do not have any applicants, and all of the incumbents desire reappointment.
Okay, well, that's probably easy.
And then we'll move on to the Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals, and we're looking at positions 5, 6, and 7. The incumbents desire reappointment, and we do not have any applications to consider. Moving on to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, we're looking at positions 1, 2, 3, and 4. The incumbents all desire reappointment except for Nora Hahn, who's in position 2. And we have 5 applicants that have submitted applications for consideration.
So I'd like to actually make a proposal around the Parks Committee, because we are significantly expanding the activities and the events that the city has been planning. And I think it takes more than 4 people to actually run those, organize those. So I would like to talk about expanding this committee from 4 positions to 8 positions.
Well, I think 3 are not up for election right now, so there is 7.
Yeah, there's
Well, I'm saying the committee would have 8, so we would have to appoint the remainder of the 8. Exactly.
So you're adding only 1 position?
No, we'd have, so there's 4 positions now. What I'm saying is we add an additional 4, so we'd have a total of 8. Then we'd have to appoint 5 individuals to fill those positions because we have 1 existing position that doesn't want reappointment.
So the committee would have 12.
To clarify, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee is composed of 7 members. 3 of those members are not up. Their term is not up until
My
20.
apologies, I misread that.
They also just completely revamped the composition of that committee, and there is a youth member and I think another member. Is it the 7 the ones we appoint plus the youth?
Yes, that's correct.
Strike that thought then because I misread.
Well, the problem is I like your thought, and you have experience on this committee just like I do, and Michelle now does, and more on this committee. The concern I have is the amount of engagement. If you put too many people in the room, you have a lot of discussion and maybe too much discussion. One of the things I noticed going through the attendance rosters is while Charles is a fantastic person, he's been absent.
If I might say something, he did tell me that he has had some problems with getting to the meetings because of his job, but that has been resolved. And he said that he would be able to make the meetings in the future. He did offer that to me on the phone.
Okay.
Well, I would like to speak on some of the applications that we received. There's a few, first of all, the things that Parks and Rec have been doing and the things they have in the next 2 years planned are phenomenal. And I am so excited that so many people are eager to be a part of that process. And it really just shows that our city is growing and doing good things. I do want to speak on Chrissy Holder for a minute. I really, she has been a leader in the community, PTO president, led a couple nonprofit events. She has a special needs child of her own, and I definitely think that she has that. Her oldest son will be in junior high next year, so she has a demographic that I think is a good voice for Parks and Rec. Thank you. And then Jamie McDonald. She has shown a lot of community involvement. She created the JV Stroller Mamas, which really, I don't know if you know this, but back with the 4th of July parade, she was the one who kickstarted that happening again, and we just did it with us and a bunch of wagons, and now it is what it is. So she is truly like a grassroots, already Parks and Rec person, and we love her family. James also is amazing and makes all of our meetings very lively. And then for Heather and Linda, what I have to say about them is they both have children in high school and junior high age, and I do like that perspective. I think it's a missing voice that we have on council, on the committee. I know that we have done a little bit of navigation into finding things in that tween age that are really, how can we get the tweens to be more involved in the events that we do. And right now I don't think we have a really strong support with Cook Junior High. I know the high school principal for Jersey Village has been interactive with us, but it would be nice to have a voice for junior high.
Yeah, I was reading through their applications, and they all fit my criteria. One that stood out to me, Jamie McDonald application, aside from her association with some questionable people in Jersey Village, who I won't mention, but the statement at the end really caught my attention, and I'm going with her.
We can, if I wanted to ask somebody to talk, we can call anybody up. who wants to talk, right? Mayor?
I mean, charter gives council leeway.
Well, the chairman of the committee's here. If she doesn't mind me putting her on the spotlight so we can ask her a question. You mind coming up here?
Yes.
Appreciate your service. You've been
Sure.
chairing this committee for quite a while, and it's a lot of work. And you probably put more work into it than any other chairman on any other committee.
Thank you.
Do you have any thoughts on adding members to the committee? I know the committee is offered to take on some more responsibility, and this might be helpful, but do you have any concerns with making it too large?
Well, before Josh came on board and the city took over more of the activities, we certainly could have used more people because there was a lot of manpower required from the committee. Now, the city's handling a lot of it, and so we have been sort of an advisory role, and this event that we're doing, Fall Frolic, is the first one probably in a couple years that the committee is really involved in. So we are having to pull other volunteers to get this event done because 7 people and our 1 student, it's really hard to man all the activities, with the DJ and bounce houses and games and all the things that we are going to be responsible for. And for this particular event, Josh said, he had a lot of other things going on that he's managing, and so he is having the committee run this one completely, which is like it was 5 years ago or whatever. So for this particular event, that would be great. Going forward, if we're in an advisory role, we may not need additional members. So it's just kind of whether we're going to be involved in doing more activities or whether we're going to be strictly advisory is where the decision point is, the way I see it.
One of the reasons, this committee, like you said, used to do lots of events. And I remember the first time I met Sherry Shepard was she worked the concession stand during one of the events.
That was before me, apparently, because you weren't on the committee when I was on it.
I would love to see, because that participation dropped, we started using part-time parks employees to staff the events.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see committee members back in that role, working with Josh to make events happen instead of the committee does this event and the city does this event. So with that said, thank you for your comments and
Sure,
your
and
input.
I think the only thing to say to that too is when you do get new members, that they are aware whether it's going to be an advisory role or it's going to be more of an active role like it was before. Because there were definitely some people in the past who didn't want to be on the committee because they didn't want to be as involved or work as hard. And those were the days when we were making hamburgers and doing hot dogs and that kind of stuff, and it was a lot of work. So again, I think just we need to make a decision if we're going to have more activities where the committee's involved and more will be required, or whether it's you come to a monthly meeting and you essentially give advice or you give your opinion or whatever. So I would just say going forward for new members, we just need to kind of make sure what their involvement or how involved they want to be.
I will say that as germane as this all is generally to the topic, ultimately our question today is who to place in the positions that are open. But I think it's certainly worthy of more discussion as we go on and try to find the structure that works best for our city and provides the most opportunity for people to serve and also for recreation opportunities for our citizens. So, but sounds like it's going great. So.
Great. Well, thank you for asking my opinion. I appreciate that.
Of course. Any further discussion on the appointments before us today?
I would support Councilwoman Shepard's idea of adding 4 positions. I'd have to lean on Lori to know what number they would fall in, but to appoint everyone who has applied with the exception of Nora Hahn, that would that would just add everybody on there. And I think that would serve the committee well.
That would be a great conversation for a time when it's on the agenda.
My question is mainly about, because I think we're still okay because we're talking about the
Yeah.
Parks Board, but the Parks and Rec Committee, how was it created? Is it resolution or ordinance?
It was made by a resolution, and I don't think it's not codified.
What?
So it was just a resolution.
Okay.
It was recently just revamped about maybe 2 or 3 months, or like maybe it was before your time.
It was almost a year ago.
And it was by resolution.
So that's the avenue we'll take to, I mean, if we're going to address the size, address what's in that resolution, and then that can be on another council agenda, and then we can work in how you want to do it, changing the structure of the board. But for now, I mean, I think the mayor's correct that we'll just fill in with whatever we need to on this particular resolution.
At this time, I would entertain a suggestion of a slate.
You have a slate with just 2, Michelle, or you want me to put something out there?
I mean, I do. My slate proposal would be Christy Holder, Jamie McDonald, Linda Schubring, and Heather Tuggle.
So you're wanting to replace the ones that have requested reappointment? Is that?
Just based on attendance, and the other person that I would be replacing has served for 6 years, so I think it would be fair for new candidates to come in with fresh eyes and ideas, especially since they've shown their leadership in the community.
I'm not sure I caught this. Are you replacing the whole committee?
Well, one is not up, does not request, so
Sorry,
I would be
except for the 3.
Yeah. And my only reason for replacing David would be because he sits on the golf course committee, and serving on 2 when we have this many applicants interested, I think would be fair to the citizens to serve on one committee when there's such huge interest in this one.
Yeah, that kind of goes with my criteria, is get as many citizens active in the city as possible.
And also, just to speak to that, if we just keep whoever's always on there because they request it, then what is the incentive for citizens to come and apply to these committees? You know, if I knew I don't even have a shot at being considered because that person is requesting reappointment, then I think that we would see a decrease in applications from citizens who are out in the community making things happen.
I'll second that.
So it sounds like we've got a couple of people that are.
I had some reservations about pulling David Locke. He is very active on that committee, and while he has been there 6 years and he's on 2 different committees, I'm not sure that this is the committee he would want to be off of. And the lack of willingness to serve on the golf course committee by other people's really shouldn't be held against him. But so my slate was David Locke, Glenn Yakovich, Jamie McDonald, Bridget Martinez. But that was before I knew about Charles wanting to get back on the resolving a medical issue or work issue.
So James, I liked your idea, and I'll give Sherry more credit for offering up the idea of expansion. And I think I like the idea of making sure, not always by expansion, but making sure that the people that apply have a voice. So this is kind of a compromise at this point. If we were to go ahead and fill the one spot, then maybe address expansion in a future agenda and consider these places.
I would say that I would love to look at expansion. I would also like to look at the possibility this committee does not have votes, does not make decisions. And if we can remove the Open Meetings Act from their criteria and make this a committee that is an advisory only, subject to the park department, I think there's an avenue there where they can avoid having to deal with, hey, we can't email each other, we can't have discussions. I think that would benefit the city.
If I might say something, I think there was a bill that just passed that, are you familiar with that, Justin? The bill that passed that required boards and commissions to be under the Open Meetings Act?
Yeah, but most of the time that's conditioned on them being advisory or not. And so that's what we'd look, make sure, we can do that as long as they're advisory only.
Okay, we can check it.
And we'll make sure that if we're gonna work that into a resolution, and then if you want to beef that up and put that as part of your ordinance, and then how that ties into Parks and Rec's rules that you've adopted and how they're adopted. So it's gonna take a little work to get that in, but that's something that's definitely feasible to do.
Boy, Robert's going to wish he was here tonight. But well, obviously nothing's being done on that tonight, but
The one meeting you miss.
He's missing it for work. He's at a conference, or he's on his way.
So if I understand correctly, we have a proposed slate from Councilmember Mitchum. We have an agreement on that slate from Councilmember Wubenhorst. Any other competing or anyone else want to chime in on what's been proposed? I will just, I was just going to say, and I certainly understand the struggle of, you want to always encourage good people who have continued to serve on committees. There's some value to that. But I think Councilmember Mitchum makes a good point about incentivizing people to want to get involved. If you practically have to wait years and years and years for a spot to open up, sometimes it can stifle some of that engagement. Obviously it's a little different, but we have term limits here on council. And those exist for good reason, to keep new people and new ideas coming in. I think that a committee such as Planning and Zoning or some of the boards of appeals, those can be highly technical, and having a depth of experience of tenure on those committees can be super helpful because of the technical nature. Parks and Recreation is a very different kind of beast, where I think a lot of fresh ideas coming in can be very helpful, particularly as we grow, as our community changes. It can be super helpful to have some new and different ideas out there. The other thing to keep in mind is that being on the committee or not being on the committee doesn't prevent anyone from being involved. Certainly, it sounds like they've got some big plans on this committee. They're going to probably need help, not just from their own committee members, but maybe even from other volunteers to make some of these ideas happen. And we certainly want to encourage people to look at ways to serve that don't necessarily require a number next to their name for a committee. It can be in more informal and transitory ways. So those are my thoughts on it, but I think Councilmember Wasson was going to say something before I jumped in.
Yeah, and this is, I think all 5 of the people that filed for applications are good people. I know each of them personally in one way or another, and to that extent, what you were saying, I mean, we may need to figure out how we restructure certain committees and limits and terms and numbers in which you can serve on. Those are for future decisions. This is, but I think if I'm forward thinking, I would like the current slate that wants to reappoint, plus Jamie McDonald, and thinking that maybe we take care of the other 4 other candidates in the future.
That's the slate I was thinking. The existing ones that want reappointment plus Jamie.
And when you mean in the future, did you mean add them on this year or next year?
Next month.
So talking about as part of the potential restructure?
Yes, next month.
Now, they got to work it out, but as soon as possible.
And then since it would be 8 right now, would some of them be only 1 year? So then we had okay. I think that's a great idea.
I think there's 7 right now, total. Yeah.
So we would go to how
I can't
many
count.
next month?
We'll work it out. But for now, I think we have, if I'm hearing correctly, I think we've got 3 council members who are in favor of reappointing the members who desire reappointment and adding Jamie McDonald. Is that the consensus as well, or any further discussion on that?
And then next meeting, we would have an agenda item to add on the 4.
Sounds like a good compromise.
I don't know if they'll make it for the next one, but they'll try. I am absolutely in favor of adding the 4 spots to get the others on there. I think their voices are very valuable. This group needs to be included in the discussion.
I'm sure we can find a time in the near future where we'll be able to discuss that, and we'll look at it and figure out,
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, David's very interactive with the cars, and so, and his ideas with food trucks, and so I was, hesitant. I do think that the voices that applied were just something I couldn't pass up.
Okay, so I think the agreement is that we're going to look at trying to get people more involved in a more formal manner at a future meeting, but for now, we're going with all of the members desiring reappointment plus Jamie McDonald in the open slot, correct? Okay, all right. That might go on record as the longest committee discussion ever.
You're welcome.
I'll take the blame for that.
All right. All right, this one will probably be one of the shortest ones. We have the Golf Course Advisory Committee. There are 3, of the total 4 positions up for reappointment, 3 members desire reappointment, and this is a surprise to me. The chair, Vance Burnham, does not desire reappointment. He's served in that committee for a very long time, and we thank him for his service. But we only have 1 application from Eddie Martinez, who I will just say is a very good guy. I think he'd make an excellent member of that committee. So 1 application, 1 opening. All right. And that brings us to the end. And so unless there's further discussion, I would entertain a motion on the resolution at this time.
Lori, do you have it all down? You want me to go through it?
I think I have it down, and we can just move to approve the resolution with the information discussed.
Move to approve resolution number 2021-62.
Second.
With the members that we discussed.
Okay, and I think that's a motion, and I believe Councilmember Singleton seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution? All of those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. That brings us to resolution number 2021-63, selecting an individual to serve on the TML Health Benefits Pool Board of Trustees, Region 14. Lori Cootie, City Secretary.
Yes, Mayor, this is just to select an individual to serve on the TML Health Board. Back a few months ago or so, if you recall, I believe that the council did nominate Jason Reynolds. Since that time, there's been 2 more people interested in this position as were included in the meeting packet. This resolution is to make your appointment and complete the ballot.
Okay, any discussion from council on this particular resolution?
Yeah, I looked at the 3 here and wanted to consider somebody other than the incumbent. However, looking at the 3 emails, their composition, delivery, one stands out well above the others. Complete black and white difference. So I would go with Jason Reynolds.
I agree with that completely. When I was reading the 3 emails, one definitely stood out, and it was same one.
Any further discussion on this item?
No, I have no problem seconding that nomination.
Oh, well, then I should make it official. I move to approve Resolution 2021-63 with Jason Reynolds being the appointee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. That brings us to resolution number 2021-64, designating a city representative and an alternate representative to the Houston-Galveston Area Council's 2022 General Assembly. Lori Cootie, City Secretary.
Yes, so Mayor, last year, the designated appointee or representative was Councilmember Singleton, with the alternate being Councilmember Wasson. This item is to appoint those representative and alternate for the 2022 General Assembly, keeping in mind that there will be a meeting in person for that assembly on November 8, 2021.
Okay, any discussion on this?
Do you seek reappointment?
So they didn't provide what time the meeting is, and it is typically held during the day. And at the time on November 8th, I'll be at Sam Houston in the Fire Marshal Executive Management Program, so I cannot attend.
I'm available that day.
Drew, are you available?
I could be available, but I'm also in the interest of spreading opportunities around. I'd look to my left.
I'm not trying to take it. If you are interested, you may go ahead.
Then I would suggest that Councilmember Mitchum and Councilmember Wasson be the alternate.
Is it two of us or one?
It's a representative and an alternate.
Got it.
But if you don't show up, then he can show up.
Any other? If everyone's good with that, I would entertain a motion at this time on the resolution.
I make a motion that we, resolution number 2021-64, designating Michelle Mitchum as the city representative and Drew Wasson as the alternate representative.
Do we have a second? Is that count?
I seconded it.
Okay, it's okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Sorry.
Those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. That brings us to item 4, discuss with possible action either a contract extension with the audit firm of Belt Harris, and my wife's going to kill me, Pachasik? Okay. My wife being Polish, she's going to kill me on that one. Or the preparation of an RFP for audit services for a period of 3 years. Isabel Cato, Finance Director.
Yes, the contract between the City of Jersey Village and the audit firm has expired, and they have offered to extend the relationship with the city for additional 3 years, starting with fiscal year 2021 and end with the end of the year audit, so 3 more years. Berhard Pachasik has been the external auditor for the city since September 2009. Staff is recommending that we continue that extending agreement, especially now that we have so many grant projects that require single audits, and they really haven't increased their prices. They are keeping the same prices. Also, even though they have been with us for many years, there's an auditor that used to be with them. He left, he moved to Fort Worth, and now he came back as the senior manager, and it's like we're having a new set of eyes because he's really good and very experienced. So.
Okay, thank you, Isabel. Any discussion on this item?
Isabel, I saw some the costs laid out of estimates for the next 3 years of what that would cost. It appeared to be in line with what we paid in 2020, according to the checkbook register. I couldn't find those costs for 2019 and 2021. Was there a difference, or?
They went up a little bit on the prices for the audit, but not too much. But the single audit prices, they kept it the same. And now we have like a lot of grants because of our great city manager. So we have single audits that we have to comply.
Just based on understanding of the market out there, are those in line with what you've seen or understand?
So we tried to change like twice before, and every time we got back the prices, they were way high compared to Bell Parish Pechasic. The prices were super high.
I believe I can remember
Thank you.
going through one of those processes and verify what you said.
Isabel, do they rotate through the auditors, even though it's the same firm? Do they send different auditors for different processes?
Yes, and that's what I was trying. Right now, they had this auditor used to be with us many years ago. He moved to the Fort Worth area as a senior manager for one of the national firms. Now he came back, so he's going to be our auditor. He's the senior manager. So it would be like a new set of eyes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what I was just getting at, which is there's a lot of benefit to having the same firm for an extended period of time, but it's always best if within that firm, if there's an opportunity to keep the people different so that there's not too much complacency or just natural human behavior of kind of, an auditor has to be very objective, and you don't want, again, totally human nature, doesn't matter who it is, you work with someone too often and it might give them the inclination to give the benefit of the doubt when in fact they should be looking further at some issues. So I'm glad to hear that, because that was my only concern, was having one firm in for too long might create that if they didn't have enough people to rotate people in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion on this item? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve the extension of that contract.
I'll second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The motion to extend the contract passes. Austin, does that require, obviously there was no resolution or anything here. Are y'all going to have to come back on that, or are you going to be able to execute it with that?
I believe we'll be able to execute that. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Excuse me, Lori. I think he has to sign the engagement letter.
I have it ready.
The mayor.
That was gonna be my next question, because I saw my name at the bottom. I guess I have the power to execute, or should that be the city manager?
I mean, we didn't look at the contract, but my guess is when it was first approved, you were probably given the authority to continue on those extensions, and so I think that would be part of it. If you're going to extend it, it's an option to extend, then it's part of the original contemplation of the contract, so you're good.
Okay, well, that's a new one. All right. Okay, well, we are, since we are about to go into an executive session, we have our mayor and council comments earlier on. And so I am going to start down on this end with Councilmember Wubenhorst.
I have no comments.
Councilmember Singleton.
I just have a couple. One is, while I appreciate the ability for people to come up here and talk, it's a great part of the process, and I appreciate it. I don't know that these people are the right words to use. They're your neighbors when you're talking about people that live here. So anyway, moving on. You don't often hear, Zach did a fantastic job of balancing his comments, and I remembered one of the questions that I was going to ask him. On the morning of the Adriatic fire, I got in my car and didn't know what was going on, but I got a bunch of radios in the car, and I heard a friend of mine get on the radio and say, "Park behind ladder 84 and bring your manpower forward." I immediately thought, man, something big's burning. Wonder what's burning. And so I go check everything, and I can't find the fire. Then I found out that oh, all these comments say assisting Jersey Village. One of those fire trucks that came to assist at the Adriatic fire drove here from Greens Point. I want Zach's comments to dwell on you and think about them. Volunteers are fantastic. We've had a volunteer fire department for a very long time. It's not going away. Volunteers have a place in that fire department forever. If they ever want to serve, they're welcome to serve. They can be an interior firefighter. There's nothing wrong with that. We always want to continue to train and have volunteer firefighters, but he brings up some points that we do need to consider, we do need to look at, we do need to face the truth that we need to look at hiring more firefighters just like we have in this budget, and we're going to need to continue to do. I asked him about the village fire department. I can check with a friend of mine, but I'm pretty sure they have about 12 firefighters full-time on a shift. And they cover an area larger than us, but they have a lot of similarities. And so I don't know what the answers are, but I know that it's something that we need to continue to take a good look at and make sure that we are providing the service we need to. With that, I appreciate everybody serving on committees and being willing to serve on committees. Volunteering continues to go down, as with the fire department discussion, and it's nice to see all of them full, and the Parks and Rec committee to have such great interest in that committee that does a lot of work compared to a lot of other committees. So,
Councilmember Wasson.
Regarding the fire department, I can't say it better than Councilmember Singleton, so just ditto. Want to recognize the Employee of the Month, Stacy Jones. Quite impressive and quite well earned. Each Jersey Village has a bunch of outstanding employees, and they all deserve recognition. And that segues nicely into the beginning of last week about this time. I think your public officials in leadership were going on 18 hours without sleep, maybe 19, 20, 21, 22. Keeping their eyes and ears open for the hurricane. I know all of y'all I was kind of worried up to a certain point and then realized it's just going to be not as big as we thought, but wanted to thank everyone in the EOC and everyone supporting the EOC and everyone helping their neighbors, including the five young men and women that received donuts for their efforts. And had I known that, I would have picked up a broom, James. And so, yeah, remember your neighbors, not just during storms, every day, right? Check in on them, say hi, be friendly. And hopefully we'll be out of hurricane season soon. And thanks for sticking this out.
Councilmember Shepherd.
I would also like to thank Zach for coming to speak tonight, and also Chief Marr for having conversations. My husband is one of those firefighters that responds to many of those fires. So, I'd like for him to come home safe and healthy and well. So I do think that it's, a conversation that we need to have as a council as to how to address that. On a lighter note, though, if you got your newsletter today, you'll see on the back of the newsletter the fireworks show that is coming up. So I hope that all of you come out and enjoy that. This is something that we're doing for the first time, and hopefully it will be an annual occurrence.
Yes, I'm very excited about the next few weeks, all of the fun things that Jersey Village is doing. National Night Out, if you haven't registered with your street, contact your neighbors and figure out where you want to host it. It's a really fun way to get to know some of the people you don't know on your street. And then I wanted to welcome Yolanda Evans, our new code enforcement position. Looks like she's already hit the ground running when she started. So I think she started 2 weeks ago. So welcome, Yolanda. And then, it was a very powerful message from Zach. It was very, very powerful.
All right. right, thank you. I will say, you never want to be, that position as mayor when you're signing your first, declaration of disaster. It's not a fun time, but it's necessary when these things happen, as they often do. It's even less fun when you are on the tail end of a 2-week vacation in Wisconsin with your wife, and you feel even more helpless because you're 1,000 miles away and you're signing that disaster declaration from another state, feeling like a dope sitting there. Aside from staying in contact with Austin and making sure that he had everything he needed, and staying up till 2:30 in the morning, watching the water levels, and once it looked like the rain was gonna just stop and it turned out to be a whole lot of nothing, then getting 4 hours of sleep, and being relieved that was it. So all of that to say, the one thing that made that bearable was the fact that we have an amazing staff that I knew was ready, that had a plan, that carried it out flawlessly. When we got back, you could barely tell that there had been anything happening here. And as social media made all too clear, it was because there were, between our police officers and firefighters and city staff and citizens all getting out and making sure that neighbors were helped and that the mess out there was cleaned up, and it was really amazing to watch. It just kind of sucked to not be in there with y'all while it was happening. So just thank God that it turned out to be a much lesser event than we worried it would be, and just glad that all that preparation and all of that planning allowed us to rest assured that we knew we were prepared for the worst, but then glad when that didn't happen. So thank you all for your dedication and your continued planning and hard work, and hopefully it's a very, very long time before we have to do that again. So with that, we are going to go ahead and move into executive session. City Council is now going to retire to a closed session at 8:57 p.m. pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.074, Personnel Matters, Section 551.087, Economic Development Negotiations, Section 551.072, Deliberations about Real Property, and Section 551.071, Consult Attorney in connection with the following items. 1, pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.074, Personnel Matters, conduct an executive session in order to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of the city secretary. Pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act 551.074, Personnel Matters, conduct an executive session in order to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of the city manager. 3, pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, and Section 551.071, consultations with attorney, a closed meeting to deliberate information from a business prospect that seeks to locate in the city. And 4, pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, Section 551.072, deliberations about real property, and Section 551.071, consultations with attorney, a closed meeting to deliberate information from a business prospect that the city seeks to locate in Jersey Village TERS number 2, economic development negotiations, including the possible purchase, exchange, or value of real property related thereto, and to discuss legal matters regarding contractual obligations of the city under existing contracts related to Jersey Village TERS number 2. We will return to open session and continue with the remainder of tonight's agenda after the closed session deliberations are concluded. Thank you. The closed session was adjourned at 10:42 p.m. and no official action or vote was conducted during the closed session. Which brings us to item M1, consider setting the city secretary's compensation for budget year 2021-2022. That has my name on it. At this time, we would consider a motion on setting the compensation for the city secretary.
I move to set the city secretary's base salary compensation budget year 2021 to 2022 at $195,624. No, that's not right. I'm looking at the wrong one.
Wait, what did you read it off as? Yeah, unfortunately, my number came from him, so I've got the same error.
Yeah. All right. I'm an amended motion. I move to set the city secretary's base salary compensation for budget year 2021 to 2022 at $125,624.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Which brings us to item M2, consider setting the city manager's compensation for budget year 2021-2022 and consider employment agreement amendments.
I move to increase the city manager's base salary compensation for budget year 2021 to 2022 to $195,624 and approve the employment agreement amendments discussed in executive session.
Did you get the number wrong again?
Yeah, I did. I got the number wrong again.
It was 9/11.
Second.
Yeah, I'm moved to increase city manager base salary compensation for budget year 2021 to 2022 to $195,911 and approve the employment agreement amendments discussed in executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those against? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Which brings us to item M3, discuss and take appropriate action on a resolution regarding items discussed in closed session regarding economic development negotiations, including the possible purchase, exchange, or value of real property related thereto, and contractual obligations of the city under existing contracts related to the Jersey Village TERS number 2. Austin Blease, City Manager.
Mayor and councilors, we have a resolution 2021-65 in front of you tonight, if you would like to make any motion on that.
Any discussion on this item?
I have been here since the start of this, and I unfortunately, and I hope to see Village Center continue, and I hope that we're able to find a path that works for the city. Unfortunately, this path does not work for the city, and I move to approve resolution 2021-65.
This has marked my entire tenure on council thus far, along with a couple other members, and I reluctantly second the motion.
Now, before I ask if there's any further discussion, well, actually, I will go ahead and ask if there's any further discussion. Anyone else have any other comments on that? I will make just a few brief comments. I tend to echo what council members Singleton and Wasson stated, which is this has been a lot of work, and we're in such an unusual situation in our economy right now that it's probably no surprise that hiccups came in along the way. I think that there's still an opportunity to make development over there happen. Things don't always work out exactly as we foresee them, but I'm a big believer that when one door closes, another door opens, and we're gonna go knocking on those doors and see which one opens next. And I think we'll do just fine either way. So with that, there has been a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by, or just raise your hand. Yeah. All of those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. Which brings us to item N, adjournment. Thank you.